This will be the last time you guys see the gray pieces that aren't cut up into little pieces. Hey everyone, and welcome back to CJRaceCars YouTube channel. Today, we're going to give you a little update on Mullet. I know everybody's asked about Mullet, and we do have some updates on Mullet with where we're at now and where we're going to be pretty soon. As you can see, I have two rear end housings behind me, both from Mullet, which is the same rear end housing we use on Eagle. Pretty much all the same rear end housings we use on anything we do that's 9-inch, 10-inch, or 11-inch. And what I mean by that, I'll show you in a second. But you guys know we're doing Mullet with big tires and with small. Can you hear that thing echoing? That's pretty wild, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Anyways, Mullet's going to have the option to run a big tire or the option to run a small tire, radial, 275, 315, etc. And I wanted to point out the difference in the housings, which there's not a lot of difference because both the 4-link center lines obviously have to be the same to interchange them, and anti-roll bar location, wishbone location is the same. But you can notice this rear end's like, I don't know, it's got to be at least a foot wider, right? I don't know exactly what the measurements are offhand because it's been a while since I sent them to them. But this is the rear end for Mullet that have small tires. You can see it's extremely long compared to Mullet's big tire housing, which is a lot narrower. And the reason for that is because, well, the big tire can't be as close to the quarter panel because they move around and it would wad the quarter panel up. And it's getting an 18-inch wide wheel instead of a 14 or 15-inch wide wheel. So that brings everything inboard quite a bit. Something really cool about these rear end housings are you don't necessarily need for a small tire, which is what this is. We can run 10-inch gear, will be plenty for a small tire. They're not super violent, they don't shake, they don't break gears a lot, so it'll run a 10-inch gear for small tires. But Marty makes these rear ends where you can run an 11-inch or 10-inch or 9.5 or a 9-inch. And the way he does that is, right now, it's set up to run a 9 to 10-inch gear. And if you wanted to run 11, all you have to do is you have to take these bolts out right here, and this section comes out. See these plates right here? It's really hard to see, actually, but that plate will actually come out, so you have clearance for an 11-inch gear. Super slick. The big tire one has it also. You can see it's really hard to see because the machine work is extremely good, so there's not much tolerance there. It fits together really well. But if you want to run 11-inch gear, you pull those pieces out, 11-inch gear fits in. You want to run a 10-inch gear, if you had those pieces pulled out if you had those pieces pulled out still, the center section wouldn't seal up. There'd be a gap there. So you put these pieces back in, put your 9, 9.5, 10-inch gear in, and you're good to go. Obviously, all billet face plates on these rear ends. You can't build a better rear end than this. This is a nice rear end. The same housing. Well, ours isn't built for 11-inch, but we have a Mullet rear end for the car me and James are doing. It's just for a 10-inch. It's a small tire only car, and it's not going to make nearly as much torque or power as this. Well, it'll be close power, but it won't make as much torque as this big block here. So, other than that, I think that's about it on the rear. Oh, something else to notice on this here rear end housing. This is the big tire rear end housing, and you can see something different is that it has wheelie bar mounts on the top. So that's a wheelie bar mount here, and it'll mount down here. Something we don't need with small tires. You don't run wheelie bars with radials, but we will with big tires. It'd be weird seeing Mullet with
It'll be very weird.
wheelie bars.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some nice carbon fiber wheelie bars out there.
Be nice.
Be nice. I think he's gonna run on small tires, and hopefully it works really good, even at sick week or drag and drive events, and he never has to run big tires. It looks cool, the big tires, but I'm more of a fan of the 315. This thing with 315, 3-inch off the ground, and that's it. They're not in here right now, but these rear ends also have completely adjustable shock mounts. So, very nice, especially if you're going from big tire to small tire. We have to mount the shocks high enough to where on the chassis to where you can run both, still keep the same ride height, and the tires, 7 inches, 6 inches different in height. So you want to be able to adjust this. So this is fully adjustable. Again, brackets have a ton of adjustability for the 4-link and for the anti-roll bars right here. Complete floaters. These are floaters. Have TBM brakes, of course. TBM brakes on everything. And I think that's about it for the rear end housing. Something else Danny got done. I just want to give you guys an update. Some of the stuff we didn't get a chance to catch because we've been all over the place and Danny's just been working away the last few days. But we got the front suspension completely done now. We got our titanium tie rods. Of course, everything's got to be titanium. If you watched the Eagle build, you know pretty much everything we do is titanium. We also got our titanium lower control arms on here. And these lower control arms are lower control arms for making house. Same thing with the tie rods. We pretty much make and sell all this stuff. These are good for a lot of travel. So they have a high angularity bearing in there. And you can have 7-8 inches of travel up and down, never have a binding up issue, which is really nice. Got it mounted up here, adjustable forks, which we'll show you guys a little bit more on that here in a little bit on how Danny did these. Big part of the car, as we talked about the adjustable strut cups, you want to be able to raise and lower the car. You also need to be able to move the front end around a little bit. So we'll talk about that soon. This thing's moving along. Danny got a bunch of stuff cut out of the back. He got anti-roll bar links going for this thing. And we're getting ready to start making some body mounts. And before you know it, we'll be pulling the old Mullet apart. And this will be the last time you guys see the gray pieces that aren't cut up in little pieces. Unfortunately. So I know that's going to be hard on a lot of people, but the next video may be the last video you see with Mullet in one piece before we stick the new quarter panels on and the new roof of our El Camino on the Mullet.
Well, why a roof?
We may try to see if Lucas will let us borrow this roof because I would really like to put a roof back on our El Camino so we don't get rained on. All right, as we see, Danny already got this side done, but he's getting ready to do the other side, and he's got a little trick. He's going to show us how he did it. These are the front end forks. They're adjustable. This is what mounts the entire carbon or fiberglass front end, depending on what kind of car you have. Could be carbon, could be fiberglass. And it can adjust up and down. You can actually adjust this quite a bit, and the door gap, the front end gap still works pretty good because it all Zeus's there. And we would do that if the car was super low and we wanted to raise or lower the crank. We could still keep the front end where it needs to be so it doesn't get too low or too high. So, Danny's getting ready to do the other side. Show us how you do it.
Each little angle here is different than the other side. And then you got a weld down here you got to compensate for. It's just, it used to be hard to do when you're just holding it up there, kind of eyeball and stuff, and you might want to not have it straight. So what I wound up doing was ahead of time, I just taken a measure from this point out to the end. And then I'll take that same measurement and I'll go from this point over to here because this is the surface that's going to hit this. And that gives me this line, which means nothing except that point. Then I'll take an angle finder, I'll get this angle, something like this, set the angle, and then get this piece square with that, and just move this forward. You'll just move this block. And when I get there, I'll draw my line. Now we can see it's going to be long. You go up here and of course it's hitting the weld. First thing I'll do, take off that corner. And as you can see, we have a gap here. So what that means is you got to shorten those two pieces of each side here, but each side is going to get a little different. So right now this is pretty parallel with that cap, but over here we have a gap up here, nothing down here. So I'm going to take and wind up cutting something that looks like this, up to nothing. And each side will be different. We're still plenty long, but the angle is about right now on that inside piece. The outside piece looks to me like it's touching up here, not touching down there. So it's the same thing as the other side. Let's take off a little bit of that. Angle's looking pretty good, but we're long. So now it's just a simple matter of just taking the angle that you have here and just shortening both sides a little bit. Start off with like about a 1/16 of an inch.
Now, a 1/16 of an inch, Danny, you gonna sand that off or cut that in the saw again?
I'll sand it.
Sand it. It's pretty thin material, so
I
it'll
don't like
sand pretty
sewing
quick.
it in the saw because you have parts of the screw above the surface of the saw.
Can't hold
It's
it flat.
wanting to bounce around and do stuff. When I make my rough cut, it doesn't matter. But I can use a cutoff wheel. I just don't want to set one up.
Might almost need an 1/8.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go more than that. I'll just take that line away and see how it looks. Putting that bevel fits the tube better and also takes away some of your distance. So you don't want to get it to fit perfect before you put your bevel. Otherwise you'll wind up with it being short. And it's not so short you probably can't weld it, but the welder's not going to like it. See, that's fitting on my side over here now. It's fitting a little bit gap on top. Yeah, we're still a little long, but we're also hitting on that weld. Still long. I like to get it so it's as good as possible.
You don't want Taylor to yell at you?
No, anybody yelling at me, yeah. Well, now that fits pretty good. But now when we get ready to tack it on, you know, you got lines here you can go by, you got to hold it, this and that, but no, you don't do that. You find something that is square, like this block of aluminum. We know this is flat. We know this is flat. So I just take this and put it up here and put this right up against this, which will hold it perfectly square this way. And when you get ready to weld it, all I do is just line up with that line and hold it right like that. And he puts tacks, and like that. And now this is exactly center of the tube. Not this way, not this way, not this way, because this is machined and that is square. And you wind up with a nice fit. And that's what it's all about.
Just to touch on this again real quick, Danny, these forks, basically what it is the front end has a structure in it. And the main tube is either 1/2 inch, which is what these are for. We make these in-house and we sell them. That's for 1/2 inch tube. We make them for a 3/4 inch tube. We use a 3/4 inch tube ourselves, but we do sell a lot of these 1/2 inch tube deals to a lot of other chassis shops. So 1/2 inch tube or 3/8 tube slides in here. It has a washer on this side that's bent that aligns the front end so it can't go side to side. And you'd be surprised how strong that tree is when you're done with it.
Oh, it's
you can sit on the front end.
Real strong.
You can see we also got these, Danny got the tie downs fabricated and tacked on this morning. And what this does, just let you tie it down in the trailer or pull it if you had to pull it. I guess if the front end wasn't on, you could.
You could pull, you can lift the car up with that if you want.
Yeah.
To. It's strong.
Yep. So yeah, that's for a tie down. You basically X that in the trailer, tie the front end down. Rear end has tie downs on it also. Makes it really easy to strap down where you're not under there trying to throw a ratchet strap around the chassis and scratch a bunch of stuff up.
You don't want to wrap your tie-down hook around your strut rod.
You don't want to do that.
You don't want to hook around here to tie your car down.
No.
Not a good idea.
Not ideal for sure.
I mean, no.
All right, if that arm is level there, we want to go.
That's actually, yeah, that's pretty level. It might be a tiny bit high.
But pretty close.
Yeah.
All right, now measure center hole to center hole on the rear end.
7.
7. So let's make the anti-roll bar link 10.
Okay.
Because we have a 7-inch stroke shock, right? And we got 1 inch of shafts showing, so it's going to go down 6 inches. So if we go up 3, that kind of splits the difference. Okay. That'll give us 3 this way, 3 this way.
And when we cut these off, that won't be an issue.
Yeah. Right now it's just hitting because of that. But we, the last thing you want to do is for this arm to travel too far down and go past center, where this link is past center, and then you end up with a real big problem there. So we don't want that to happen.
Rear end separates and does not go back up.
Yeah, that would be could be catastrophic.
Racetrack looking like a 1950s hot rod.
Yeah, bad. Not ideal for something with this much power. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna build these anti-roll bar links in titanium. Something really nice I want to point out that Marty does, which is a great idea, is this anti-roll bar link mount on the housing has 3 holes. It has one in the back, one in the front, one in the center. So if you move your anti-roll bar, or you put rear steer in a car, or you decide the rear end needs to move forward or backwards to make the car work better, you can move that hole a little bit, Danny.
Oh, yeah.
Which is nice.
Adjustment is always good.
Yeah, we even got a little tricky idea we're going to do here with our shock mounts to make some adjustable stuff, just for that reason.
That's a good idea.
Just for that reason. So you won't see that now, but we do have that coming. It's going to work perfect, Danny.